What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ivan Herrera Show. And I am so happy to be back. I feel like I've been gone for a while. Busy life right now with the kids. Wifey's doing her thing with her PhD program. So we have a full plate. However, in this video, I'm doing a very special treat for you all. I'm going over the rookie prospects that we have coming up. I'm going to be discussing some free agency moves that have been taking place. And I'm also going to speak on some best practices that you can leverage as we get ready for the NFL draft and how you can use that for your dynasty rookie drafts, or if you're even doing a startup draft, what that'll do to help benefit you. But for starters, I think it is imperative that we start off with the news and go with the New York Giants making it official this past week, signing Russell Wilson as their newest quarterback. He signed a 1-year, $21 million contract with $10.5 million guaranteed. Wilson was attached to many franchises like of course, Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you had the you had the Cleveland Browns. And he made his decision this past Tuesday, this past week. And the 10-time Pro Bowler, who is going to be now joining Jameis Winston for the of course, I think it's quite obvious that with this contract, Russell Wilson will be the quarterback that will be starting. However, this has not negated the fact that the Giants are still very much interested in drafting a quarterback. And of course, Shedeur Sanders is the likely one to be attached to that franchise. So big signing there for the Giants. Now, in terms of a fantasy, Wilson is probably a QB2 at best in Superflex leagues. He's someone that hasn't been really all that fantastic for fantasy. Of course, I was ecstatic with Jameis Winston going there with the Giants because you attach him with Malik Neighbors. You know, Jameis Winston is a slinger. However, this doesn't still negate the fact that I believe that Malik Neighbors is still going to be elite. But of course, the excitement dwindles just a little bit with Russell Wilson there at the helm. And other news, we also have Stephon Diggs making it official, signing with the New England Patriots. And what's intriguing about this one is the fact that he signed a 3-year, $69 million contract with $26 million guaranteed. And I know that with Houston, he had his season shortened. However, it's really important that I need you to really know this. He was the wide receiver 7, averaging 15.2 points per game in PPR formats from game 1 all the way up to week 8 before he had that ACL injury that, of course, ended his season. And last season, despite, of course, the concerns about whether or not he'll be a hamper to the locker room, he was the 8th ranked wide receiver in route win rate. And I think him going to this offense where he's going to be the clear number 1 wide receiver is going to bode well for his fantasy production. And I think it's also going to help support Drake May as well, who I believe will take a second step in the right direction, being that, of course, he'll now be a second-year veteran in the league. And with also, the reason why I put this graphic up for it, the one you see right here, is because I'm very impressed with what New England has done this offseason to really go, quote-unquote, all in, to really improve this offense. And you can see here in this graphic, they signed Milton Williams on a 4-year deal, $104 million. They, of course, mentioned the aforementioned Stephon Diggs to a 3-year deal. They also signed corner Carlton Davis at a 3-year contract for $60 million. And, of course, they also signed outside linebacker Harold Landry on a 3-year deal, $43.5 million. So the Patriots doing what you would love to see is in terms of a young quarterback, Drake May. They're really investing on that team, and they still could also load up some weapons in the rookie draft. And rather with the NFL draft, which is just about a month away now. And with that, very important for us to know that we have a very important video to discuss as far as rookies. And what I did was I compiled hours of research, watched a whole bunch of film, and got some notes from scouts that I really love and I really admire, and put some things together to help you out with how to approach the upcoming prospects. And I'm going to give you my personal top 10 rankings on how to rank these upcoming rookies, and depending on where they go, what this will do for their fantasy stock. And I'm going to breeze through 10 of these. And the first one we have to go with has to be, of course, the great star himself, Mr. Ashton Genty out of Boise State, the running back who has been graded the highest PFF rated running back in recent history at 99.2, which is extremely high. He is clearly a running back that should go in the first round, and the 2025 class is going to be identified because of how well these running back prospects are. I know the last couple seasons they weren't this great, but this class is definitely a little bit different when it comes to the running back position. He has a comp similar to that of LaDainian Tomlinson, and a fun fact, he's actually one of my favorite RBs of all time. So Tomlinson getting that comp, for Genty to get that comp with one of the all-time greats at the running back position is really great. And I can see him going to Las Vegas, where he'll be an immediate impact player wherever he goes, but especially there with Las Vegas, considering that they have a gaping void there at the running back position. And with them actually going for Genty there in the first round, the way that this actually now correlates with his success in fantasy is that running backs that are drafted in the first round tend to return on investment really, really early. And in this case, with a running back one like Genty, he has a high probability of averaging 13 plus points per game, with that probability being at 85% since 2000. So we're talking about a 24-year sample size where we have seen running backs who have been drafted in the first round tend to return on investment at a high probability of 85%. So Genty definitely someone worth keeping an eye out for, and someone that I believe will be successful in fantasy and should be a 101 pick in the rookie drafts. I mean, I cannot see him go even beyond 102. Unless you have a really strong conviction or a strong lead at quarterback, I would really go for Ashton Genty there within those first two picks. And actually leads me to my second ranked player, which is going to be Omarion Hampton out of UNC. And this guy, it was the third leading rusher in college last season, was 1,600 plus yards, averaging 138.3 rushing yards in each of those games that he played there. Mel Kiper actually has Hampton going to Dallas. And for me, he is the second running back that should be going off the draft board. And for me, what stands out with Hampton, because I watched this film, someone that I believe is really talented, but for me is how impressive he was athletically. I mean, this guy's burst, his 40-yard dash was 4.46. And what's impressive is that he did that at 221 pounds. So that kind of size, to have that kind of burst, that kind of speed, elite level athleticism, and historical data, as I mentioned prior, favors running backs being drafted in the first round. And he has a strong chance of being even a top 24 RB at 85%, and also has a strong probability of being a top 12 running back. And that probability being at 78.6%. Shout out to Dynasty Fantasyland for that statistic there. And I believe that Hampton will be someone that is in his own respective tier. So I have Genty within that RB1 tier, and I have Hampton there fringe. I just love Genty a little bit too much more than him, and I have Hampton there at that second tier, and a tier all by himself, mind you. Now, the next player I have as my number 3 prospect coming into this rookie draft in fantasy is going to be Tet McMillan. I believe that this guy is someone that stands out in a really weak wide receiver draft class. Not much depth there compared to what we saw last season or even in years recent. But for me, what stands out with him is going to be his strong stature. He stands at 6'4", weighs about 219 pounds, someone that was very productive in college. And actually, he reminded me a lot of Drake London, someone that in 2 years with Arizona was very productive, like I said. And what really helped him out was that his sophomore season put up over 1,400 yards. Junior year put up over 1,300 yards as well. And he is someone, like I said, who stands out in a very shallow class. And even when you look at wide receivers with first round draft capital, they have a 53.1% probability of returning as a top 24 wide receiver. So the dip is obviously a little bit more compared to that of running backs. But McMillan, who I believe has that capital, could be a wide receiver one that could be drafted in the first round, could be someone that can return on investment, considering, of course, the historical data that favors him in that category. Now, my fourth player that I have ranked coming out of this class is going to be Luther Burden. And what I like about him is his play style and his playmaking is really, really fun to watch. And he reminds me a lot of the comps I've been seeing is like Deebo Samuel-esque because of how well he is in that short yardage region as far as short yardage targets. And check out the stat here. 75% of his career catches, he was targeted inside of the 10 yards. So I'm sorry, I totally butchered that. 75% of his career catches were targeted inside of 10 yards. This comes from Pro Football Focus, someone who can be really effective even if he isn't the primary receiver within a respective offense. And it's because of his athleticism and because of how well he is after the catch. And I think that those kind of traits make him so effective and could make him really intriguing, considering that he may go to an offense where he may not be the number one. And I think a team for me that stands out, because I don't think that Cam Ward is going to make it out of the first round. Obviously, I think he's going to be the first quarterback taken, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But I think the reason why I'm mentioning Cam Ward is because he's going to need some weapons. And I think the second round is more apropos as to where I believe Luther will go. And him going to Tennessee to pair up there with Calvin Ridley already. And of course, I'm not putting Calvin Ridley on this high pedestal, but you put Ridley there at the X, you add someone like Luther Burden, who can be that slot guy that can be utilized in very creative ways within that offense, can really be a great asset for someone that may be looking to add a weapon for a young quarterback like Cam Ward there in Tennessee, assuming he goes there, obviously, with the first overall pick. Now, the next player I'm going to actually add here is going to be Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. And I know we just mentioned Hampton. I know we mentioned Genty, but he was one of my favorite guys in this class as well. And for me, it's because of the size. And of course, not only that, but also him combining that with his athleticism. At 221 pounds, very similar to that of Hampton, he had a 4.48 40-yard dash with the burst score of 131.5, putting him in the 91st percentile all time. So this guy is someone that is a freak of nature. And this stat right here was insane too, the one that I found. At Ohio State, 42% of his runs were off the edge, which is nuts considering how big this guy is. And for him to be that effective just only speaks to how athletic he is and how well he can be as that bruiser for a running back room. And right now he's currently attached as a second round draft projection at the running back position. And you know what? It could be really interesting to see where he lands. And in the second round, I can see him maybe going to Las Vegas, assuming Las Vegas doesn't go ahead and take Genty there at the 6th overall pick. Or maybe even going somewhere to like Los Angeles. I know that they, as in the Chargers, I know that they recently signed Najee Harris, but you bolster up that offense by also adding another weapon like Quinshon Judkins to go along with Najee. And we know how well that Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman offense can be for running backs. So I believe that he's someone that is appropriately ranked at 5 overall for me. And at number 6, we have to go with his teammate. And his teammate, Travion Henderson, also out of Ohio State. And the thing about him is he's not going to wow you in terms of his stature, his size, but what will wow you is his athleticism. Because when I watched this tape, a lot of the similarities of what I saw personally reminded me a lot of Reggie Bush. It reminded me a lot of Aaron Jones. And he was a little bit more faster than Aaron Jones coming out of college from the combine. But Henderson here, I'll just read you the stats right now. He ran a 4.43, had a speed score of 104.9. That was faster than Aaron Jones, and a burst of 129.5 as well. And for me, what makes him really effective is how well he is not only as a pass catcher, but how well he's also as a pass blocker. So someone that can be there basically in all 3 downs, someone that if you have already a bruiser within that running back room, you can utilize him as a change of back guy, considering how effective he was as a pass catcher. I mean, every single season in college was someone that was a good dual threat for that respective offense. And if you're looking at his draft capital, currently projected to go in the 2nd round, and the return is still pretty solid for someone that is drafted at the running back position at 2nd round value. So the capital is still, of course, really effective there and could be a good return for your fantasy teams, especially in dynasty formats. But when I'm thinking about Henderson and where he's going, I think that an offense like Dallas, where we know that they need a severe upgrade within that offense, especially at the running back position. He can be a good fit there, considering that you already have your quarterback, you have already some wide receivers there with CeeDee Lamb, and of course, depending if they address it also in the draft. But Trevor Henderson could be someone that could be really effective in an offense like Dallas. And yeah, if you're looking within your rookie draft, someone that I think warrants a 106 overall pick, maybe if you're looking to go for tight end, maybe 108 or so at the latest, but I think Henderson deserves that first round draft capital, especially in rookie drafts coming up as well. And another guy I'm going to mention is another Ohio State guy. I mean, I swear Ohio State always constantly putting out these talents over here. I'm going to go with Emeka Egbuka. And this guy was fun to watch as well when I was looking at his tape. He reminds me a lot of JSN. And I encourage you to look at the different YouTube videos. And what was impressive was that he's my number 2 wide receiver overall ranked within this class. He had more than 1,000 receiving yards in 2024 with 10 touchdowns. And he operated a lot out of the slot, which is where that comparison with JSN comes from for me. And I didn't know this, but he actually has some baseball experience. And it actually showcased a lot in the tape. When you look at his video, you can see how effective he was with being able to track down the ball, especially when he's being targeted deep. And where we did see some opportunities was with his ability with catching the ball within traffic. And when I was looking at different scenarios as far as where he would land, I think him going to a spot like Dallas, where like I just mentioned, where if they can maybe address the running back position a little early, maybe even go for a wide receiver, I think Emeka Egbuka would be a great fit there, considering that he operates out of the slot. You have CeeDee Lamb already at the X, and I forget top of my head who Dallas has in that wide receiver room. However, all I have to say is you put him in a scenario where he doesn't have to be the number 1, but you can put him in the slot and get a great return right away. I think Egbuka would really flourish. And again, this guy could be probably someone that you can consider late first round pick, maybe even an early second round pick in your rookie drafts. But I think someone nonetheless that could be a solid starter in the NFL. Now we're going to go to the first quarterback who I have ranked 8th overall and number 1 at the quarterback position. That's going to be Cam Ward. And I kind of mentioned this over in my collaboration with Spencer Smith. Shout out to the Dynasty, the Daily Dynasty show with my good friend Spencer Smith. We talked about the quarterbacks that we thought would be drafted and in what order. And for me, Cam Ward is someone that I believe will be drafted as the first quarterback, not only in this draft class, but rather not only in the NFL draft, but also in rookie drafts. And Cam Ward has the good size, has a good arm, also has very strong mobility to make some creative plays out of the pocket. And for me, one of his strengths is going to be his quick release. Someone that has that kind of like sidearm thing going for him. And what I saw in a lot of film was how he was able to leverage that quick release to really complete passes beyond 25 yards. And it just seemed like it was so effortless. Kind of reminded me of Michael Vick back in the day with the way that he would throw, like just flick of the wrist and it goes like 40 plus yards. But Cam Ward has a good arm. And I think that if you put him in the right scenario, and I don't think that Tennessee necessarily is the best scenario, but you put him in a good scenario there with a good offensive coordinator that can really cater to his skill set, I think would be great for him. The one thing that does worry me, especially with him being obviously being a young rookie, is that we saw this past season when he played, I think was it Georgia? Yeah, where you saw them disguise their coverage and it really disrupted him, really threw him off a little bit. And in the NFL, you can definitely see defensive coordinators doing that with these young quarterbacks. And if they don't know how to necessarily read these coverages, and especially if the NFL, which they do a fantastic job of disguising these looks for these quarterbacks, I can see him really struggling, especially if they don't have the right infrastructure to really build around him and to help him succeed. Now, my number 9th player, Shedeur Sanders. He's my number 9th ranked player. And the reason why I have him ranked 9th, I mean, of course, if you're playing Superflex, this may be a little bit different. However, I'm just going based off just rookie talent coming out as far as prospects goes. Shedeur Sanders for me is the number 9th player among all offensive players. He played in a very offensive and style-friendly offense, I guess you should say. Someone that has a strong presence within the pocket. Someone that you can tell feels very comfortable, very well poised. And I know the O-line was very was a huge opportunity for him. I mean, there's so little that he can do there. But I think what was interesting about Shedeur was that he definitely will benefit, especially if he goes to somewhere like New York, where he would play behind Russell Wilson, where he's not necessarily asked to be the number one guy right away, but someone that can definitely benefit with the fact that you would have someone like a Wilson to learn from. Shedeur was someone that I think was effective. There's a few times where I thought he could have made some quicker decisions, but I think his leadership style is something that can translate well in the NFL. So I do like Shedeur. Of course, the main thing being for me that in fantasy at least would be that he would be more of a super flex quarterback 2, maybe quarterback 3, depending on where he goes. Of course, assuming he goes to New York, he's someone that you can utilize and put in your taxi squad, but someone that I think nonetheless will warrant that first round draft capital, especially if you are in a super flex league. So I do like him as an option for fantasy. Of course, the main thing is going to be how well will he do in that first rookie season, assuming that he's going to be the guy behind Russell Wilson. Now, the next guy I want to go over is going to be Caleb Johnson. This is my final running back, but he's my 10th ranked rookie. This guy rushed for 1,500 plus yards last season, while also demanding a 10.4% target share. And what I do like about him is that at 224, he ran a 4.57 40-yard dash. And I didn't know this until I was actually deep diving some of these notes, but he actually was not only a huge part of this Iowa offense, but he set a school record with 23 total touchdowns. And I think that for me, Caleb Johnson is that, like, I'm going to say tier 3 of running back, tier 4 maybe within this class, but someone that I believe, depending on where he goes, can really be someone that can be really effective. I do love his skill set, do love his athleticism, I do love his size. And I think that if you are looking within that late first, second round range, I do like him there as an option for you. I mean, of course, people forget how big of a role he played in Iowa there. And I think that him going to just the right scenario where you have him, behind a good offensive line, he can be a really good, effective running back for fantasy as well as in the NFL. So thank you guys for making it to the very end. This is my entire list. So let me know what you guys think about these prospects, where, of course, you will draft them in your rookie drafts. And, of course, as always, if you found value in this video, do me a solid. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. And also, if you're watching and you're listening to the podcast, by all means, leave me a review as well as subscribe there as well. Thank you so much for watching once again. As always, take care. God bless. Peace.